Welcome to Our Scars Speak. My name is Gina Lamanna. I am the host of this podcast. And before we begin, I would like to give a disclaimer that we are not claiming to be any doctors, any type of medical professionals, mental health professionals. We definitely encourage everyone to use their own doctors and professionals for any advice or any suggestions. We are just merely here to let you know that we support you and that you're not alone, and to share our experiences with you. So today's guest is Gina Lamanna, and she is such a beautiful person. I got to know her just a little bit, but she's such a beautiful person. And I cannot wait to get into her story. She's a breast cancer survivor. She is definitely an advocate, and she is the founder of the Fondle Project. So thank you for joining us, Gina.
Thank you for having me, Christina. It's to be here and to chat with you.
Yes. So before we get into some of the main questions, the first question I ask everyone is, who's Gina? Outside of breast cancer survivor, who are you?
That's a really great question. A very multifaceted person. I'm an East Coast transplant living here in Los Angeles. I'm a divorced single mother of two. I have two little girls, soon to be 11, and a high schooler. Well, she'll be starting high school tomorrow.
Wow.
Who's 14 and a half. I'm a fashion stylist turned entrepreneur. So I've been in the fashion industry since I've been 18 years old. Was diagnosed with breast cancer officially in December 2016. And my journey began, treatments and surgeries started in January of 2017.
Wow. So you said that you are a fashion designer?
Fashion stylist, yes.
Okay. I'm thinking designer because I see all these great things that you have on your website, and I'm like, oh, maybe she designed them all. So you're a stylist. So before, what were some companies that you worked for, or did you kind of like freelance?
I did freelance. I was in production for many, many years. And then in the year of production, meaning like editorial and commercials and whatnot back in the day. But then in 2005, I believe it was, I was extremely burned out of being on production, doing long hours and working within that industry. And I had a very small, during the time as being a stylist, I nurtured an incredible roster of other fashion stylists, designers, production, teams, directors, producers, whatever, and built it and many relationships with various showrooms. And with that experience and that community of people that I had met through the years, I had an idea to kind of create a business where I would style women, business professionals, a lot of moms, on a more one-on-one basis. And what that looked like is I have a detached guest house here at my house. And I had a kitchen in it, and has a bathroom, and I transitioned it into a beautiful studio space for my clients, for my private clientele, where I showcase and host various events with female founder brands and carry and showcase female founder brands within my studio, where I style women in a more private, intimate setting. So by doing this, it created a space for me and the freedom to become a mother and to be able to be around with my kids. I created my own hours. I was my own boss. I was able to I was able to have babies and have my babies in the sling while I work with my kids, pick up my kids every day to and from preschool. So it gave me the flexibility and the freedom that I was actively seeking back then. Because at the time when I became burned out, I knew I really wanted to have a family. I was getting married and I wanted to have a family. And I was kind of like, what can I do to kind of have it all? Not to say it was easy, but just to kind of figure out a way to pivot into something where I was getting burned out and where I could still have a family and continue working with women, doing the things that I loved, and have the flexibility, being my own boss. So so I converted my studio in 2006, and it's been amazing. However, I lost my father in January 2022, unfortunately. And
Mhm.
since then, I was trying to figure out my next step.
Mhm.
It was really hard for me to lose him, and I kind of felt lost.
Mhm.
And although my business that I had, created, and the women that I work with and the clientele that I have created, been amazing. And I built an incredible community of women. But I kind of felt lost.
Right.
And with going through breast cancer, losing my father, and also going through a divorce,
Mhm.
lots of things, I kind of felt there was an imbalance, and I just kind of felt lost. So in what are we in 2023? So in 2022, fast forward to the Fondle Project. In 2022, wait, hold on, let me back up for a second.
You're fine. So let me ask you a question. So you were a stylist, then you pivoted into your home, which I think is absolutely genius, because I kind of did some things like that when I started having children. My husband wanted me home, and I'm like, how? So I started thinking, what could I do where I'm still feeling like I'm giving to society or giving my services out, still making just having that independency. And you shift sometimes, you shift and you think of things where you can be your own boss, and to have that flexibility to be with your family. So when all of that happened, so that obviously was before breast cancer, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So what was life before breast cancer? You had the business and everything. Was there anything else going on before breast cancer?
Yes. I'm sorry. Yes,
No,
it's a
you're fine.
yes. So in 2006, I created my by appointment only concept studio here in West LA, and in, let's see, 2015, I separated from my husband.
Oh, okay.
So there was a couple years leading up to my diagnosis that I was going through some changes, stress, quite a bit of stress within my marriage.
Right.
So officially in 2016, which was June of June of 2015 is when we separated. I'm sorry. It's
No,
a
you're
little
fine.
okay. So before I was diagnosed, I was running my business, trying to be a super mom.
Right.
I was trying to keep my marriage together. Unfortunately, it crumbled.
Mm.
So in July 2015, we unplugged. However, we separated extremely amicably. Our main goal to this present day is to raise our two little girls. We co-parent beautifully. We remain very, very good friends. And he was actually one of my rocks during my
Wow.
whole breast cancer journey. So so went through a divorce, and but leading up to my diagnosis, and I'll get to how I discovered
Yeah, how
my
you found it, right?
um very healthy, active
Mhm.
woman, vibrant, putting aside the stress I was dealing with within my home, within
Mhm.
my marriage. I was healthy, I was strong, working out every day. I had a really beautiful, full life. And then since the age of 30, this is a very key thing I need to add. From the
Okay.
age of 30 to 41, my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer. My
Oh,
mother was
wow.
diagnosed at the age of 68, so post-menopausal.
Right.
The age of 30, I was thrusted into routine screenings every 6 months. Every 6 months, I'd have an ultrasound and then a mammogram. So that was my rotation every 6 months. Ultrasound, mammogram,
Oh, wow.
ultrasound, mammogram. From the age of 30 until
Mhm.
the age of 41, until I was officially diagnosed.
And that was because of your mom
Yes,
having.
because
Okay.
of my mother's history. Yes, neither one of us have the gene,
Oh, wow. Okay.
but it was just precautionary, like, look, your mother, even though she was
Mhm.
post-menopause, we want to put you into this, this routine screening. And I had very large breasts at the time and they were very dense. So from the age of 30 until present day, I'm very, very proactive on my self exams.
Right. Right.
So, and do you want me to get in? Do you want me to start
Oh
talking?
no, I was I was just so fascinated because your doctors, some doctors, they may do the screening and some doctors may not because there was no gene found. I found some women, because there's no gene, they may do it once a year, but they're not doing it as routine as what. That's why I was sitting here like, wow, that's impressive that you had such such a proactive medical team.
Every 6 months, ultrasound, mammogram,
Wow.
ultrasound, mammogram, which at the age of 30,
Right.
very stressful, a lot of anxiety. I was getting biopsied quite often because they were always finding cysts, and it is common for women to be very lumpy and bumpy and
Right.
have, fibrous, tissue and cysts and whatnot. So I think the first couple of years when I was thrusted into that routine, I think I had like 3 or 4 biopsies done.
Wow.
There were always cysts or whatnot.
Right. So you always found there was always something there, but it was benign. So what exactly was it, something that you found or they found on these imaging that lead you to the diagnosis of having breast cancer?
Okay, so I went in July of 20, what's it? Let's see, I was officially diagnosed in October. My dates, November 2016. So right, so it was July 2016. I went in for my ultrasound. Not everything seemed to be fine.
Right.
No, but during that time, because I was constantly giving myself self exams, I was always,
Mhm.
looking, feeling, and touching, and becoming very familiar with my normal each month and any changes and whatnot, and document anything or letting my doctors know. So in July of 2016, went in for my routine ultrasound. Everything seemed to be fine, but leading up to my mammogram, which was in November 2016, during that
Mhm.
time, I kept feeling something.
Mm.
I felt something very
Right.
small on my right breast. Actually, it was like right here
Okay.
between my breast, like around my sternum area. Went in for my routine mammogram that I was due for. Came back. They said it was fine. Come back in a year. However, I women are so intuitive, and I'm
Mhm.
all about following your gut. I think it's so important that we follow our gut and follow our intuition and listen to our body. So November 2016, I got my negative results back.
Mhm.
However, I continued to feel something that didn't seem normal.
Right.
I called up my OBGYN, who I absolutely adore, went to go see her. She felt it. She goes, okay, I'm going to send you to so and so again so she can take a look at it. So there's a series of steps. I go to see my breast surgeon who had done my prior biopsies and
Mhm.
prior ultrasounds. She does an ultrasound in her office. She felt it. She was in agreement that it felt a little off and funny. However, didn't see anything suspicious again on the ultrasound.
Mhm.
And I was like, okay. And she's like, come back. We'll keep an eye on it. Come back in
Right.
6 months. And I looked at her and I was like, something's not feeling right to me.
Right.
I'm newly single. I'm 41 years old. I have 2 young girls. What would be, I need a little more reassurance. What would be the next step for me to get that added reassurance? And she said, well, we can get you a breast MRI, but I can't sign off on it. Your insurance is not going to cover it. It's going to have to come out of pocket. I
Right.
said, that's fine. I will totally pay for it out of pocket because I just wanted that extra reassurance.
Right.
Okay, go through all the motions, right? Of going to have the breast MRI. And it was around Thanksgiving of 2016. And I was with my dad. My dad was visiting from the East Coast. It was around Thanksgiving. And I got the phone call from my breast surgeon to share with me that they indeed did find something suspicious. I almost went off the road.
Oh, wow.
And gathered my thoughts and whatnot. I called her back and she told me what I had to do for my next steps, that we'd have to have a biopsy done. And we go in for the biopsy. I don't know if it was a week later or 2 weeks later, but I
That's fine. Yeah.
went in for my biopsy in November of 2016. And it came back benign from UCLA. I don't know if I should really say that, but it was from UCLA.
Mhm.
And obviously we were relieved.
Right.
However, my ex-husband and I are very, very big believers on second opinions.
Right.
Third opinions if you have access and the resources.
Absolutely.
And for me, it was like from day one, all these little things, I was like, I'm just going to keep following my intuition. Again, I'm just going to, seek out a second opinion. So we sent that out first week in December to MD Anderson and Sloan Kettering.
Okay.
My doctor here at UCLA was totally okay with sending off the pathology. We just had to kind of like fill out we went online, we had to fill out some paperwork, I had to sign it off, and she had to sign off, and we forward over the pathology to MD Anderson, Sloan Kettering. So it wasn't until New Year's Eve when I got the results. I was in Vermont because I had a new partner at the time, and we were in Vermont skiing, and I just left my ex-husband, my daughters in Chicago because we'd spent Christmas together, and went to Vermont, was with my boyfriend at the time. And prior to departure, I had told my doctors, let me meet this, I'm sorry. I had told my doctors to give the results to my ex-husband, Stephen, at the time.
Okay.
Because I didn't want to, number one, I didn't want to get whether they were good or bad. I know, first of all, I didn't want to get that phone call if I was with my daughters.
Right.
And I didn't want to get that phone call if I was by myself driving, like the first.
Yeah, because you almost ran off the road the first time. Right.
You know what I mean? So I gave them all permission. Please let my ex-husband know the results, and he will call me and let me know at the right time when I'm not alone, or I'm not driving,
Right.
or when we can be together as a family. So on New Year's Eve, he called me. I was by myself at the time. My boyfriend was skiing, and I decided to stay behind and just relax. And he had called to tell me that he had good news and bad news to tell me. I don't remember what the good news was, but he had told me, the bad news is like, it came back. Sloan Kettering came back to let us know that you indeed have invasive ductal carcinoma. So then from then on, I kind of went to fight or flight. I mean, I was in shock, obviously, went through various emotions, screaming, yelling, ran out into the snow. And all I wanted to do was get back to Chicago to be with my daughters, to hold them, because, you hear that diagnosis and you're like, holy shit, am I going to die? Like, what does that mean? I didn't know. So I kind of went to a fight or flight mode. And being in Vermont on the East Coast, I was very, very lucky because it was New Year's Eve, and we acted fast because since I was on the East Coast, my first decision was, let me get to Sloan Kettering to see the first, get in for the first possible appointment, whenever that may be, to see a breast surgeon, a breast oncologist, all the things. And my ex-husband was in Chicago. My boyfriend had come home from the mountain. I was in Stowe, Vermont, with minimal Wi-Fi and service. I was sitting in his car outside because we had a couple bars to kind of make phone calls and stuff. And the three of us acted very quickly to reserve an appointment with Sloan Kettering. But in order to reserve the appointment, before they could even give me that, like the first next available, they had to have 5 years of my medical records.
Oh, wow.
Like, 5 years? I'm in Vermont. It's New Year's Eve.
Right.
To do that. And I wanted to get the first available. And the first available, I think, was January 4th. I think the first day they reopened after the holiday. So the good news is my ex-husband, which I hope everyone who's listening will take note of this, he had every single one of my scans, physical, lab reports, everything from like the last 10 years, all on his desktop. He had everything compiled in a folder.
Right.
For me, like all my medical records, which I didn't know he had. I mean, I had some, but I didn't have that access with me because I was on holiday.
Right.
I had a lot of stuff on my laptop, but my laptop was in LA. So Stephen had always traveled with his laptop, and he had everything kind of consolidated and organized for my daughters and myself, which I'm grateful for. So he was
Right.
able to compile everything and get everything. He made a couple phone calls in LA to get some discs, transferred or Dropbox or what have you. And I was able to get like everything to this receptionist at Sloan Kettering by like 4:45 by the time they closed that day,
Wow.
to secure that January 4th appointment to
That's
go see my, to go see a team of doctors there at
right.
Sloan Kettering. So that's when it all kind of began on New Year's Eve of 2016.
And that's important that you say. I say that all the time to people. Make for sure, not only because my situation was I got the note from the radiologist, but he ignored the fact to tell me that I had what was it, calcifications, and that my breast tissue was dense. He didn't specify. I should have had an ultrasound, and he denied me in 2015. But I had been having breast issues prior to 2015. So I tell people all the time, because of my experience, I got the note in the mail. However, on the paperwork, that his report stated everything that I needed to know, including the fact that I possibly needed an ultrasound, but he had an order and he denied me. So I tell people, go beyond the imaging, make for sure you also have all the reports and keep them with you somewhere at all times, so you can easily, have
It's
access
very
to it.
important. Like, I
It
mean,
is.
every time you go to a doctor, whether it's just your annual physical or routine screening or what have you, you should always get the report before you leave. And if they can't give you, they can email it to you, or the imaging. Like, I just had an ultrasound done recently, and she created the disc and she put it in the mail for me. I think it's really important because not all doctors are connected to the same institutions and networks, and they can't really like UCLA has their own network of
Right.
doctors. So they can log into their computer and have access to every doctor that I've seen at UCLA. But if you go to a different institution like Cedars here, that they're not all connected.
Nope.
So I think it's very important. I tell all my girlfriends and women that I meet along the way, like, just get everything in one folder, or, consolidated, or have everything organized for a future, because you just never know.
You
And
don't.
I'm fortunate because I would have never been able to, first off, I've never heard of that where they don't secure appointments, but I guess since it was, it was a breast oncologist and a breast surgeon, he's like, look, I need all your mammograms. They wanted to do their own studies and research on me, just like MD Anderson. Then MD Anderson came back with their report, and they indeed confirmed I had invasive ductal carcinoma, but they wanted me to fly in for 7 to 10 days to clear my schedule so they could do all their screenings, all their biopsies, all their lab work, all that stuff, which I didn't do because I was already, with whatever. But so take note, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, to just keep everything accessible, or, on one folder, because you never know when you're going to need all that information.
Absolutely. And if not, make for sure you have at least written down where you've been, so that way you can go back and retract and get the information. And there is a retention period. Usually it's about 10 years, where they may have record that you've been there, but they may not have the actual films, or they may be kind of hard to download. So that's something that I try to let people know often.
Right, exactly.
Which is, so that's why I say get it, like you stated, get it as soon as you can. So you found out this information. Now, what was your treatment plan like? Like, who did that? Did you go back to UCLA, or did you stay with these particular doctors?
So when I went to go meet with this team of doctors at Sloan Kettering, I felt safe. I really liked them. They gave me my first layer of options. And so in a week later of January 2017, I had a lumpectomy done at Sloan Kettering. Now, at the time, I was in a relationship, and my boyfriend lived in New York. I was in a bi-coastal relationship. So when I was first diagnosed and going through all of these emotions and stages and meeting with people, I was like, well, I'm going to have all this done in New York. I'm from the East Coast. I have all my family and friends are in New Jersey, New York. I was going to feel supported. I was going to do everything on the East Coast, be with my partner. and whatnot. So, I have a lumpectomy in January of 2017, and then they came back with the pathology to let me know exactly I was invasive ductal carcinoma. They confirmed that it was stage 1B. My lymph nodes were clear, so I caught it
Good.
very early. I was very
Right.
lucky. He did give me my options. At the time, he said that I could move forward with just a lumpectomy, 8 weeks of radiation, and 5 years of tamoxifen, or radiation, double mastectomy, and tamoxifen. I chose a double mastectomy.
Okay.
So in March 2017, I had a double mastectomy and reconstruction.
Okay.
I declined radiation, and I declined tamoxifen.
Okay.
Okay, so I just went the route of multiple surgeries. I had 6 surgeries in 13 months
Wow.
because I did have implants done originally, but they made me very sick.
Made me sick too.
Yes. So
Yeah.
so that's a whole nother.
Oh yeah, breast implant illness. People, I shout from the rooftop about breast implant illness and capsular contractor, which I had never heard of until it happened to me. And thank God my doctor was very open with the information. She was the one who said, you got breast implant illness. And I was like, and I went back home and researched, and I'm like, I came back, I was like, you think I'm crazy? She was like, no. I said, well, that's what it says on Google. She said, I told you stop Googling.
That's horrible, right? We should not Google. However, it does have, its benefits for sure.
Told me it was breast implant illness, and that was it. I need to know more information. She was like, no, you're not crazy. She said some doctors do think that it's in the patient's mind. She said, but no, she said she's seen too many patients with it. So she knew exactly what I had, and I had it from the expanders. I didn't even make it to the implant.
Wow. Okay. Because as I mentioned to you earlier, when I was first diagnosed, I was vibrant, full of life, full of energy. I didn't look sick.
Right.
I still had glowing skin. I was active. I was full of energy. I had the first surgery done, recovered, rebounded rather quickly. And then when I went in for my double mastectomy, I had the expanders for 3 months. So I was doing okay, considering. I mean, it was a lot of trauma.
Right.
Stressful, and your body has to rebound and recover. I was doing pretty well. And then of June of 2017, everything was in 2017. June of 2017, I had the transfer from the expanders to implants. And I kid you not, Christina, within 3 weeks of these implants, something just wasn't feeling well. I wasn't feeling well.
Right.
And I just kept kind of going through moving throughout, muddling through. And then I started becoming more mindful of all these new things that were happening. And when I caught up, because I had a team of doctors.
Right.
I called these doctors up. They all were like, your body's been through a lot. It's healing, you're rebounding. I'm like, okay, sure. And then I would say it was like month 4 or 5. I was like, my lymph nodes were swollen. My skin looks awful. I had a long list of things that were going on. In the beginning, I was like, sure, okay, my body's been through hell and back. Like losing your breasts is a big thing. Like it's a lot. There's a lot of pain.
Amputation for real. Like people don't classify it as that, but it is.
Exactly. So go to Google, typing in these things. Didn't even think about my implants. Didn't even come across my radar. And then one night, somehow it did. I was like, implants and side effects. All these things started coming up. I mean, this was what, 7 years ago, 6, 7 years ago. So now there's a lot of conversation about breast implant. So when I went back to my doctors and said, look, this is why things going on, they thought I was bat shit crazy. Excuse my language.
No, but it's true. It's true. A lot of doctors don't believe in it at all.
They just kept saying it's all in my head. Even my boyfriend at the time was like, honey, I was like, something's not right. But my one doctor, my GP, he does not specialize in oncology. He's been super supportive since day one. He was on board with me and ready to investigate, was like, I just would like to let you know it's very hard to diagnose, but I
Mhm.
believe you, and let's follow through. So he sent me to various specialists to try and rule out shit, autoimmune shit, all kinds of things, but nothing. Everything kept coming back normal,
Mhm.
but I still was going to my originally when I was first diagnosed, I was scheduled to see my oncologist every 6 months, like most women.
Right.
However, post implants, my lymph nodes underneath my arms were so swollen, I was going to see her every 3 months just to rule out any
Yeah.
new cancer, you know, and that was I was so full of anxiety and stress. Every time I'd go see her, she'd ultrasound them to make sure there was
Mhm.
nothing wrong and whatnot. But so it took a handful of months to convince others that I was
Mhm.
sick and
Yeah.
my health was deteriorating. And then my plastic surgeon, I totally forgot. So I had my lumpectomy at Sloan Kettering,
Uh-huh.
and then I decided to do everything here.
Oh, okay. So you did
Okay.
come back
I
to
did come back. I'm sorry. I
California.
came
Okay.
back after my
You're fine.
lumpectomy. And I made the decision to be here in my home with my daughters. I had, you know, my besties
Yeah.
here to take care of me, and my girl gang came forward and they took care of me for 6 weeks post mastectomy. My mother, I was in great hands.
Right.
Plastic surgeon who did I had 6 surgeries. He did the last 5. Was amazing. He was awesome. Did my implants, and he also did my fat transfer. He
Okay.
originally too in the beginning was like, I don't think these implants are making you sick. He
Mhm.
wasn't convinced that they were making me sick until November of 2018 when I officially had them removed,
Uh-huh.
did the transfer. He was finally convinced that they made me sick.
Did you have the smooth, because I can't remember when they took these off the shelf, but did you have the smooth textured or
The
the
gel silicone smooth.
okay, yeah, I did too. Well,
They were not the gummy or the gummy
the
bears.
textured, I know what you're talking about, the textured
Yeah.
it's one that had texture on the outside that they got rid that they've taken off the shelf.
Yeah.
But
They
yeah.
they were not there was no leakage, there was no I didn't really I did have one issue with them during the time I had them. One of them flipped.
Uh-huh.
She was able to flip back, which was very painful to do when they have to flip them back. But I had a handful of, you know, issues and side effects from the implants. And I vacillated back and forth whether or not to go flat.
Mhm.
I was, you know, because when I was doing my research in various forums and Google, deep flat tissue transfer surgery is a big surgery. It's a
Mhm.
big ordeal, and it's such a big deal that they compare it to heart surgery.
Mhm.
You know, you have to be in the ICU for 3 to 5 nights, depending on your, you know, your recovery and all that. And I was like, wow, I don't know
Yeah.
if I can, you know, I had 2 young girls and I was
Right.
like self-employed. So,
Mhm.
you know, recovery, everything, but I ended up making the decision to not go flat and do the fat transfer. And I will say that was in November of 2018. Within 48 hours, Christina, it was a game changer for me.
Yeah.
I already started to feel better. All those symptoms I had
Well,
in those 12 months, gone.
yeah, it's amazing. My husband, even after the explant of the expanders, I woke up and I'm like, my God, I feel like so much better. Like, cause I had so many, I had array issues that were going on. And even when I went to my doctor's appointment, the first one, she's like, oh my God, you're more vibrant. You have energy. This slight temperature I kept
Yes,
forever.
I
It was like 99.9. It would not go because it was around the time of COVID for me. So my doctor was like, have you been anywhere? Da, da, da. I was like, no, I don't know why it won't go down. Like it stayed there. I had a temperature after surgery 103 for 3 days. Then I had this 99.9 that stayed until I got the expanders taken out. Then it went away.
You're the first woman that I've met. I've met many women with implant illness, you know, in the last couple of years, but
Mhm.
I had an ongoing fever of 100.1 from the moment,
Mhm.
like, you know, and the only reason we figured this out, I didn't realize, I just felt
Yeah.
warm, I guess, all the time
Right.
and fatigued, we didn't realize this because the day I went in for the implant removal and explant, I had 100.1 low grade fever, so to speak. And usually they don't perform.
That's right. Yep.
But, and my doctor at the time was a little like, but then when he went back, because I went to, like, as I mentioned, I went to multiple doctors in that 12-month period to figure out what was going on. And he had a record. He's like, wow. He's like, Gina, do you realize that your temperature has been 100.1 since? And I was like, it makes kind of sense. Like, it all,
Yeah.
I never really paid attention to that. So obviously the surgery went, we went forward with the surgery, but like I had an ongoing low grade fever for 12 months.
It was crazy. I had so many symptoms. It was unreal. It was unreal. I was like, how in the world I go from having cancer that I thought was going to kill me to this that I don't even know what it is that's trying to kill me at this point.
Your body, it's I say this often, our bodies are so incredibly resilient and amazing.
Absolutely.
And if we are in tune with our bodies, which obviously you are and I am, and our intuition, it blows my mind with everything that I've been through and being intuitive and just paying attention to all the different things. Like if you were not in tune with that, right? Just kind of like going along and just kind of slopping off like, well, I had cancer. This is normal. I should feel shitty every day. I should feel these things. But no, not
yeah,
really.
it was bad. First, it was the skin twisting up and turning colors, and that was the capsular contractor. But then these other things like GI, I eat, my stomach didn't hurt, but it came right back out. That went on for months, like until I got them taken out. The fever, the headaches, the sweating. It was so many different things going on. I'm like, this is not my normal. No, I may have pain every day, but this isn't my normal, pain that I have.
Your body was telling you.
Breast implant illness is a huge thing. And so I totally understand and felt your pain on that one. So you had a DIEP flap, which is very, that's a major surgery because they move veins and everything, not just tissue. And a lot of people think, oh, I'm just going to have like a little tummy tuck. And I'm like, no, that is not it. It's like they're going to move some veins. They're going to be it's a very
transferred. It was my original plastic surgeon who I love and adore. And he teamed up with Scott Sullivan from NOLA from New Orleans, who does this, like does these like every day. Like he's one of the best of a microsurgery. And the two of them did the surgery. I think Jay worked on my chest and Scott worked on my abdomen and whatnot, but it was a big deal. Like they transfer the tissue and the blood vessels and everything. That's why you have to be in the hospital for like 4 or 5 nights, because you have to make sure the tissue doesn't die and that it all kind of, in a way, kind of everything's connected and working and flowing and all of that. So it's pretty intense.
Yeah, that's a very intense one. And because I used to work in the medical field and my sister had just gone through her liver transplant and I used to work in the cardiac care unit, I was like, no, it's not just a matter of moving tissues. They're moving veins. And when you start moving veins, you're going to have to be watched just to make sure, like you said, everything is working. So if you don't mind me asking, were you able to do nipple sparing or did you?
I have my nipples. I was able to keep my nipples.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Because a lot of women I've found didn't even know, wasn't even offered nipple sparing, which is sad. But
that was actually my first minor procedure was a nipple sparing procedure where he checked to check around the surrounding tissue of my nipple to see if I could save it. So the cancer that I had wasn't near my nipple and they didn't feel that it was at risk. So I was able to save the nipple. So look, go ahead.
No. So that was your whole treatment plan because you didn't go through tamoxifen, you didn't go through radiation, so you just did the double mastectomy, and so now you're being monitored every
6 months.
Okay, well, that's good.
So we're monitored every 6 months, and I feel really good. Honestly, when I was first diagnosed, I was on that wagon of like super green, vegan, all the things. I cut out. Look, every woman is, even though we've all been diagnosed with breast cancer, everybody has a different journey and plan, right?
Right.
What makes you feel best. And, a lot of them follow a protocol by their doctors and whatnot. But for me, I did that whole, vegan, super green for like
Mhm.
a year and a half, but I became a size of a flea, and
Mm.
I wasn't enjoying my life.
Mhm.
I'm not I don't drink very often, although I
Mhm.
started occasional margaritas during the pandemic, but like, like going out every once in a while, I wanted to like enjoy some cake,
Right.
or have a glass of wine or whatever, or, have some fish,
Right.
whatnot. I'm Italian too. Like I want to cook meatballs
Okay.
for my kids and all those things. So today, this present moment, I feel strong. I feel
Mm.
vibrant. I feel great. The decisions I've made, I feel really good about. I feel extremely grateful. I caught it very early,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that I can share my story, and, creating this project or this campaign, the
Yeah.
Fondle Project, it obviously is coming from my own personal experience, but there was two components to this campaign.
Mhm.
Number one, I'm sure you can relate to this, being a survivor, or what I like to say, call us thrivers,
Right.
is the first couple of years after my diagnosis, I lost all my confidence and self-esteem. Many of
Mm.
us do, through radiation, chemo, losing our hair, breast reconstruction, losing our breasts, and being a fashion stylist. My clientele came to me for that confidence, ego boost, and to help them. And
Mm.
during that time, I didn't have it for myself.
Right.
So it took me a lot of healing and working on myself and going through the motions of regaining my confidence and self-esteem. And so fast forward to the Fondle Project, it has two components. The first, the very big, the one thing I really wanted to spotlight was I wanted to empower each and every one of us that
Mm.
we are beautiful. Our
Mhm.
scars do not define us.
Right.
It's just a chapter of our story, right? It is our new normal,
Mhm.
but we're strong, we're beautiful, we're resilient, all those things. Because during the beginning of my journey, there was a point where that relationship I had mentioned to you that I was in for 4 years, he
Right.
was an amazing partner. He was very supportive, but the relationship ended,
Mhm.
and there was about a year time where I was single,
Mm.
and that was very hard for me and many women that
Mhm.
are on this journey. I had a handful of men, when I shared with them what was going on, or they
Right.
would see my scars, or I would just tell them. A lot of them went running. They
Mm.
just didn't want to deal with it. They didn't want to take it. They'd be like, "You're lovely, you're amazing, but you have
Mm.
this. It's a little too heavy," and they were scared, or
Mhm.
for whatever reason they couldn't handle it. So that hurts someone's confidence and self-esteem,
Mhm.
obviously. So, I got to a point in my life where I was like, you know what? This does not define who I am.
Mhm.
It makes me a stronger individual. This is part of who I am.
Right.
And I really wanted to spotlight these incredible women that we featured and photographed and interviewed, that like they're all living their best life.
Mhm.
Tisha, Sophie, my friend Sabrina, who was diagnosed originally at stage 1B, I think at the age of 30. Fast forward to her 10-year anniversary, was diagnosed at her
Wow.
10-year anniversary, cancer-free, with metastatic breast cancer, but she is hiking
Right.
mountains and traveling and hiking and like doing these incredible things and living her best life. Miss Sophie, has 3 dance studios, and you got Dion, who just opened up her
Mhm.
first like lash salon, like, and I'm doing my things. So we're all kind of doing, Tesha's, a big advocate, has her nonprofit,
Right.
and she's doing all these incredible things, so, then I have Rebecca, who was told she couldn't have a family because of
Right.
all the treatments, but just had her beautiful miracle baby in November, and we photographed her
Mhm.
with her baby.
Yep.
So this project is, yes, it is breast cancer awareness, yes, to remind women to know they're normal, become familiar with their
Mhm.
bodies, right?
Mhm.
to touch yourself. And it's not just your breasts, it's just become familiar with your
Yep.
body. Thyroid cancer is up. Touch your neck and become familiar with all those things. So it's about knowing your body and changing the narrative, and especially with younger women becoming younger and younger. I had a young girl, Rachel, who was 24 last summer, diagnosed, who was dismissed for 3 years. She found her lump at the age of 21 or 22 and was dismissed, and then was recently diagnosed last summer with stage 3, you
Mm.
know? So it's about empowering women that are on this journey, giving other women hope to
Right.
show that, you can get through this, and follow your dreams and do the things that you want to do and hope to do, that does not define you, but also to really, really spotlight and highlight the importance that please don't rely on your once a year
Mm.
OB/GYN appointment. Know how to give yourself a proper self-exam,
Right.
become familiar, and just know your body.
Wow, that's so
Because I
beautiful.
consider myself very lucky, because if
Right.
it wasn't for me being proactive on my
Mhm.
self-exams and being my own advocate, my fate absolutely would have been different.
Absolutely. And
Remember,
that's with you actually going and having very proactive doctors. And I think that's an important part that people need to understand from your story as well, is like you had things in place to protect you from the onset of what happened to your mother, and they were doing a great job. However, you then still had to advocate for yourself to push a little bit harder to make for sure that they examined an area that you knew shouldn't have been there.
have to be your own advocate. And
Yeah.
I'm sure you know this, 90% of breast cancer, it's not hereditary.
Right.
There's a misnomer here that I have many friends and clients that have moved along with life. I don't need a screening. I do not have any history.
Mhm.
I'm good. And I do not have the gene. Well, breast cancer is becoming more and more common in women, not only younger, but with women that have zero history or do not have the gene.
Yep.
So I'm pleading to all women, just become familiar with your normal, like what your breasts feel like, and do your self exams. And if nothing feels right, seek out. And if your doctor says to you, you're fine, you're too young, but if something's still not sitting within your gut, you got to follow your intuition.
Yep. You got to.
You have to.
That is so beautiful. So that's basically what you are doing now then. So it's the project that you're doing. And I know you just finished the first part. Is there anything else going on with the
Oh my
Fondle
God,
Project?
that's the big question I keep getting asked. So we launched June 1st, and the project, as I mentioned, was a community of love.
Yes.
Everyone had come forward to donate their time and energy, from the studios to the production crew to the event planner. It was amazing. And I had 7 fashion brands involved for the month of June, who there were 7 brands featured, and on all
Mhm.
women, there was 10 of us. So a portion of the proceeds from the things sold during that month of June were donated to Let's Fuck Cancer, BCRF, and the Breasties. So we had a really great turnout. How I move forward, what I'm doing next, I'm not quite sure. I am going forward as a nonprofit, which is great.
Okay.
What I would like to have future photo shoots in the future.
Mhm.
However, I do need to raise money for that, because again, everyone came forward to donate their time for that
Mhm.
project. So in order for me to move forward to do a rinse and repeat of that, it doesn't have to be of that level, because it was a pretty epic photo shoot and
Mhm.
production. I will need to raise money to be able to pay the people involved
Right.
that that can create a project or campaign again. I think moving forward, we have an event coming up in October that I'm doing collaboration with a young girl who was diagnosed with breast cancer. We're going to do a beautiful event in October, and I have various panels and activations scheduled moving forward, just to continue the momentum and
Right.
continue the awareness and get women together as a community. And it's not just for survivors and thrivers. I really
Right.
want to bring women together to really, again, to become familiar, know your breast, know your body, but, learn a proper self exam, bring women together just to be on top of their health. Um,
Wow.
so to be continued, to stay tuned on what our next steps are, you know.
That's that's fine. So October though, you are having that. You're having
We are having an event, like a yoga event, brunch type thing, healing through food in
okay.
Los Angeles. Well, it'll be a very small private event, which proceeds of the tickets will go to an organization, which would be
Okay.
great. So look, look, the Fondle Project is about building awareness and community, but there is going to be raising money component to it eventually. What
Mhm.
that looks like is probably what I would like to focus on, Christina, to be honest with you,
Mhm.
as I move forward with a nonprofit, is the healing aspect. Because right now, women, we're on the other side.
Mhm.
And there's many women out there that don't have the resources that many of us do.
Right.
That is yoga, meditation, green juices, ultrasounds, like Jasmine from Sauna Scene, she donated 3 ultrasounds for the month of July.
Mhm.
We did a raffle. I got inundated with women that can't afford, so look, I have not reinvented the wheel. There's
Mhm.
incredible organizations out there, Keep Abreast, the breasts that are doing all those incredible
Right.
things. But I think with me being here in Los Angeles and all the women that I've met through my community through the years, I want to focus on getting the resources to these women that don't have, whether it's, I'm going to be collaborating with Viola Flora, floral
Mhm.
balloons, that, sending them flowers, green juices, yoga, meditation, sound baths, things like that, that help us
Right.
post treatment, because I really believe that we can get through this aside from having our incredible family and friends in our
Mhm.
community, but it's about having a positive mindset and doing the things that bring us joy
Right.
can get us through this every day.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Even if it's a
Oh,
simple, like, taking a walk or going down to the
mhm.
beach. Those little things that, I'm speaking from my personal experience, have helped me heal.
Right.
I'm surrounded by love, and I have an incredible community of girlfriends that are supportive, but at the same time, there's a lot of things that I do. I get dressed every day. That really helps me,
Mhm.
which is really great for me, because there was a time during my all my surgeries that I didn't feel good.
Right.
But then I started getting dressed every day. Hence the reason why I wanted to also get jumpstart or launch the Fondle Project, because getting dressed daily helped me heal. Putting
Mhm.
on a pretty shirt, putting on pretty jewelry or whatnot. So I think that's really important. So I hope that I'll be able to raise money where I can collaborate with other future brands, where I can dress women that are going through this and things like that. Research is very important, and I'm all for it. Research,
Right.
we've come a long way, as you know. But I also want to take care of women right now. What do we need right now?
Mhm.
I just sent a basket full of groceries and a massage to a woman locally that's going through her
Yeah.
treatment and stuff like that. And she feels good. This week she feels good. She sent me a note that she's grateful and she feels good and she feels nourished and she
Yeah.
feels loved. Great. Baby steps, right? Take it day by day. And if today you feel good, awesome.
Yep. That's why I tell people take 1 second at a time. Because there was a time I couldn't take 1 minute. I couldn't take one day. I had to take 1 second at a time. And it's important when you talk about like the mental health aspect. And that's why when I do these podcasts, I don't say before, during, and after. There's no real after for us. I say now. And that's because even for some of us who've come on the other side, we still have things that we may deal with when we look in the mirror, or something that might trigger us, because we now have triggers that we didn't have before, going through breast cancer and going through it's post-traumatic stress syndrome. It's PTSD. That's something that a lot of us have afterwards. You hear about scan anxiety. Well, it's because I have to get a scan and I don't know what that scan is going to look like after I finish. So it's
Great
those
game.
things, right? It's
Yeah.
those things that people, and I think that's beautiful that that's what you're trying to really focus on as well is like okay, now we've gone through the treatment. And a lot of people, especially sometimes family members and sometimes friends, they don't mean to, but it's sort of like, oh, you're cancer free now. You're okay.
I was just going to add,
Mm-hmm.
this is our new normal, as we both know.
Right.
And yes, family and friends want to help when as much as they possibly can, but many also are not capable or don't know how because
Mm-hmm.
for whatever reason. But yes, I've my own personal journey, and I know many men and women on a cancer journey that have shared that once they're done treatment, done a surgery, or done their mastectomy, their family or friends or the community think they're done.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to share here on your podcast to everyone that's listening that will be watching this. If you have a loved one or a friend or know somebody on this journey never ends. This is our new normal. Continue or, when possible, check in with them.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's just a check-in, hello, how are you? I'm here for you. Maybe you want to send them a note, send them a card. It doesn't even have to be a monetary thing or
Right.
a gift per se, but just letting them know that you're there for them to listen or to talk it through. Because for me, I do feel good. I feel strong, and I have my 2 little girls, and I have a very supportive partner. Charlie's been amazing, and I have an ex-husband. However, I have my dark moments, and I
Absolutely.
call up my girlfriends. I'm like, I'm having a day. There's days where I'll cry, I'll grieve my breath, and there's things that, like, look, I'm sure you have this too. Like, you have a headache that lingers for 2-3 weeks.
Oh yeah.
The doctor's office, they're
Yeah.
scanning my brain. It becomes your new normal. I'm
It could be
grateful
a
that,
rash. It could
yeah,
be anything. And I'm like, what the heck is this now?
yeah, like, when your doctors want to be on top of it, they want to stay on it. But, so a lot of friends and family or colleagues think, oh, she's 3 years out, or she's
Yep.
good. I'm like, mm-mm. So this is just my gentle reminder to everyone that's listening right now that, that knows people on this, or that if you're on this journey, like, if keep checking in.
Yeah, you have to, because and then on top of the breast cancer or cancer, whatever type of cancer the person may have, you had life before this. So you could have had a whole bunch of stuff going on before this even happened that piled on top of this, and you're still dealing with life. And life doesn't stop. If you're still in it, it's going to keep on going, and things are going to keep on coming at you, whether it be good or whether it be not so good. And that's why it's very important, like you stated. And even for some of our caregivers, because a lot of people, they look at us too, and it's like, oh, well, they look fine. They look great. They look vibrant. They look like they're doing great. And it's like, no, like literally my chest hurts every day. Like, but I don't go around like, clenching it. But yes, it's a misperception out there that is sort of like, oh, you're fine. You got through treatment. You're living life and everything is great.
Right, you're cancer free because you had surgery or whatever, or yeah,
Yeah. And they mean well. They do mean well,
do
but it's
mean
like it's
well.
not that simple. And even for some of the caregivers, they go through their own trauma. And if you mentioned, because I've mentioned to my husband one time, I was like, oh yeah, I got this. And he's like, what is it? Like, do you need to go to the doctor? And it was a cyst, but it brought back a trigger for him. So yeah, so it's just we gotta check in with one another.
And that's another thing I would like to share too, if you don't mind.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because I'm sure your audience, a lot of the women that will be watching this are in this. They are survivors. It's important that we do check in with our loved ones because it also affects them. I
Absolutely.
didn't really when I was going through this, I had my girl gang, I had my ex-husband, and I had my partner at the time. He was back and forth from here in New York, whatever. But during various surgeries, my ex-husband was at every surgery in the waiting room with my girlfriends waiting for me, and I never checked in with him. Even like while he was taking care of the kids,
Mm-hmm.
he took care of the family household and everything like that. But I never really checked in with him, and it was my best girlfriend who was sitting in the lobby with him that day. I don't remember which surgery it was. I think it was my mastectomy because I was in surgery for like 18 hours. She asked him, she was like, "How are you doing? I haven't really seen you since you guys
Mhm.
divorced or separated. How are you doing, Steve?" And he broke down. He's like, he had nobody. He's like, Gina has her team of girlfriends. He's like, I have no one to talk to.
Yeah.
And that I was like, shit, right. So I will check in with him on occasion because he is the father of my kids.
Right.
And it was really scary for him to see the mother of his kids go through all of this. So once in a while
Mhm.
I will ask him, like, how are you doing? And
It's a
it's a
it's a
lot.
lot. And because I asked my husband, I was like, "Are you okay?" And he was like, "I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to process this." And even to this day, because that's why he hasn't been up here on the podcast, because he's like, "I don't even know what to say." Because it's, and also we got to think about men. Sometimes when it comes to emotional things, they're not, not all, but some are not as vocal, or they're very direct, and that's it. There's no elaboration on it, but there's not always a lot of support either for them or for other caregivers. So I think that's important, that something that we all need to be mindful of as well, is just giving back, just making sure they're okay as well as ourselves.
You should absolutely interview your
Oh yeah.
husband
Well, I
or
do. I want to, but he's like, I don't even know what to say. I was like, well, I'll kind of guide you through it. He's like,
to a
no,
caregiver because it's true. It does
it
affect
is.
them too.
It
Yes,
does.
I know we're the ones that are going through it and have all the physical and mental stuff or whatever going on, but it truly it affects them as well.
Everybody. It affects everybody. And when you were talking about your children, real quick, I want to touch on that because I got the phone call. My daughter was home, and because I told him call me, I didn't care when, and I broke down. I didn't think I thought, I had been dealing with this for about 20 years, trying to get good, advocating for myself. And I did not even think about, oh my God, if I got the call, how would I handle, because I didn't think that I would handle it in the manner in which I did until I heard the word carcinoma. I heard nothing else but carcinoma. And I was like yelling, like, "Oh, you're saying I have cancer?" And my daughter, she had never seen me break down like that before. So it really messed her up. And that was her senior year of high school.
How old she was 17, senior?
She was 17. Yep. So when you said you didn't want, I thought that was very good on your end, far as like how strategic you were to wanting how you wanted your results. That was a very good point, because it can traumatize them when they see their parent who has been very strong and very always there for everybody else, and then they just totally break down. Not to say that you can't show emotion in front of your children, but I think sometimes if it, that was just in the middle of the day, it's just like, whoa, hits you like a ton of bricks. So
Yeah, for sure. It definitely affected my kids, especially when they had to see me recover,
yeah.
especially post mastectomy and post deep, because those were big
Mm-hmm.
recoveries. So that was a whole, because I couldn't pick them up. My
Yep.
my youngest right now is 10. So she was 4, I think. It's still like, I mean, I still pick her up at the age of 10.
Yeah.
But like, I had to gently share with him, like, when you post mastectomy, there's certain
Yeah.
movements you can't do, as and there's all these things. So it was really hard for them. They're like, "What do you mean I can't sit on you or I can't hug you? Like you can't pick me up." So it was definitely really hard to share and all of that and to go through all that. But interesting enough, my oldest daughter at the time, how old was Ava? So she's 14, so she was probably 7. When I think it was post mastectomy when I had all my reconstruction, my doctor was the same doctor for my daughter's teacher at the time.
Oh, wow.
So her teacher, I think it was her kindergarten teacher or first grade teacher, knew what was going on and talked to Ava and walked her through and shared with her, look, your mommy's in the best hands. She has Dr.
Wow.
J. She's going to be okay. And look at me. I went through the
Yeah.
same thing your mommy's going through. And, I'm your teacher. I'm thriving. So that kind of helped her along the way because she saw her teacher, who she loved and adored,
Yeah.
strong and thriving, and kind of like held her hand on the days in school.
That's
So
so
that was really
beautiful.
helpful.
That
Yeah.
is so beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I do have to ask about your song and your word, but before that, do you have anything that you want to, any last things that you want to share with people, or where they can find you on social media?
You can find me at the fondleproject.com or IG Fondle Project. Ladies, know your bodies, touch yourself, perform your self exams. Don't wait for your once a year OBGYN. Just, do it once a month, or, try, and if you can. For me, I've gotten some of my girlfriends, and they make it part of their daily routine, like brushing their teeth.
Mm-hmm.
When we're all getting older, we have our skin
Yeah.
routine and stuff like that. Like, and don't forget, when you are performing your self exams, to do underneath your arms, because I know 2 girlfriends of mine found their cancer underneath their arm, not around their breast. So it's very important to feel around underneath your arms, feel all your lymph nodes underneath your arms.
Love
To
it.
fondle yourself.
Yeah.
This is my last
That's
word. Just fondle yourself.
And if you have a partner, husband, spouse, girlfriend, whatever, like, let them look at you and check you out. They sometimes know your body probably more than you do. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it's true. It's true.
So when I
It's
seen the
true.
name of your project, I'm like, this is perfect. That's what we're supposed
I
to.
did not come up with the name.
Oh, you didn't? Okay.
No, my partner Charlie, my boyfriend, came up with the name Fondle, because he wanted me to walk through my situations. Like,
Right.
walk me through this. And I was like, well, I was always fondling myself and fondling my breasts to make sure. He goes, wait a second, let's do fondle. And at first I was kind of like, ooh, I don't know about that, because it has
Yeah.
a negative connotation to it.
Yeah.
But then I was like, but I want you to lean into it. I
Right.
want to grab your attention.
Yeah.
Especially the younger generation. It's
Yeah.
somewhat provocative, like, hey, the girls in their 20s become familiar,
Yep.
because a lot of these girls are not getting the education they need to know they're not getting this in sex ed.
They're not. They're
One
not.
23-year-old that I interviewed, she's like, I wish I had known this.
It's
We're not
sad.
learning. Yeah.
From the girls as well, even though I know we're not talking about males, but even the men, like, they're not being, I had a group to come on, a male breast cancer group, and they were talking about the same thing, like education in the school systems and stuff. We talk about the reproductive organs, we talk about these different things. We go to the doctor, a female may be examined, but a male's not, and it's hitting everybody. Like, it's not discriminating at all about who is hitting or
Men
who.
need to, right. Men need to do it. Men need to
Yeah.
touch everything.
Yep, they have to, because the young man that I interviewed, he was 17 when he found the lump, but he didn't get diagnosed till his 20s.
Wow, 17. Okay.
Yeah. So it's both, but yeah, you're right. Just touch yourself, fondle, do what you gotta do.
Exactly.
So what was the name of your song and the artist, and why did you choose that song?
It was by Polo and Pan. They're DJs, and I want to say that they're from Copenhagen. It's one of my favorite artists, and when I listen to them, I love to dance and I love to move my body. So when I listen to them and hear their music, I just feel alive and feel vibrant, and it just makes me move my body, and it just reminds me of how strong I am.
Wow, I like it.
Yeah, and my daughters love them. So
Oh, do you?
we
So you get fun together, dancing together.
we have 5 p.m. dance parties every day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's nice. I like that.
yeah,
That's
we've been
something
doing
they'll
that
never
for
forget,
yeah,
ever.
exactly.
New
Exactly.
memories. Okay, so one word that you can leave everyone with that can help them with either a wound, a new wound, or something that's a scar on their body or in their mind that they deal with every day, that they're still trying, not necessarily to overcome, but to just be able to handle it, be able to look at it without it being so gut wrenching to them every time that they see it or think about it. Just something that has helped you maybe get through.
I think one word I could share or remind each and every one is that we are resilient. Resilience.
Mm-hmm.
We have the capacity to recover quickly, and I feel that if you we all have the capacity to work through things. And again, going back on the positive mindset, if we continue to, surround ourselves with love and people that are positive and doing the things that bring us joy, I
Mhm.
think that, um, yeah, I think that we are capable and we're resilient to, withstand and overcome anything.
I love it.
That, I mean, that's when I think of myself, even my kids and the women
Mhm.
I've interviewed and met along my journey, and the women that I feature in my campaign, they're strong, and these women are resilient.
Mhm.
And I think if you just continue to remind yourself that we are resilient, and we are capable, and we are strong, and you are going through something like this, we're stronger on the other side. We become
Right.
strong, and our bodies are resilient. And if we take care of our bodies, mind, body, and soul, I
Mhm.
really truly think that we can overcome and withstand many, many things that come to the table, that surface.
Awesome. So before we end, I always like to say something back to my guest, and
You're so beautiful.
you are too. I love this interview. And what I have found to me, what I found about you thus far, as far as not just the interview, but just our conversation back and forth, a little bit of chatting here and there. I hope that as you continue to move forward, because what is on the horizon is probably much bigger than you could probably even imagine. And I know you have things going on that you're imagining, but yeah, it's probably beyond that. But also to remember within that to continue to have your quiet times, your balance. You
Thank
got
you.
to need it because it can pick up. And I'm sure with working in the industry, how things can pick up, how things can burn you out. But the one thing that's not going to burn you out is the fact that you are staying intentionally in your purpose. So excuse me. So when you're in your purpose, you might get worn out, you might get tired, you have to take some little breaks, but at the same time you're going to keep on going because this is your purpose. This is what you've been purposed to do on this earth. This is part of your purpose anyway, and because of that you're also going to get the energy to continue to move on, but just being conscious of, I need to take breaks, I need to have that balance and to continue to evolve because you're not done yet.
Right. You're absolutely right. I do believe that my cancer diagnosis was a blessing in disguise. It was the universe telling me to slow down. And since I've been diagnosed, I have gentler days, and I take care of myself. I'm more present with my family, and I pay attention to everything. And but also I have found a new purpose in life, and I want to give back. And I'm super passionate about being an advocate and just being there for other women.
Yeah, and just continue to relax in that, and people even continue to help you out
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
accept it because you're definitely evolving into even more than you haven't even seen yet. So but I just thank you so much for coming
Thank
up
you so
here
much.
with
Thank
me.
you.
And so, well, that's a wrap for another episode of Our Scars Speak. And I thank each and every one of you for watching this episode. Please go check out the Fondle Project and make for sure that you remember that our scars speak. They speak a story that should be told when you get ready to tell it. We're not trying to force you to tell it, but just know that every scar that you have that's mental and physical, that it speaks a story, and it speaks a story not only to yourself, but to others. It helps others get through the wounds that they have now developed. Okay, with that being said, I love you all, and I hope to see you back again real soon. Thanks for your
Bye. Thank you.
time. Bye.